Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. President Trump and the coronavirus task force say the next 2 weeks are critical. They've released new community guidelines to help. Wall Street falls again, the Dow closing nearly 3,000 points down, the largest point drop in history. Crowds are scarce at New York City's Times Square. Today, restaurants and bars are closed and gatherings of 50 or more are banned. We see what people are doing instead. Iran sees its biggest jump in coronavirus deaths. This as its leaders might be leaving the country. And a second outbreak could be on the way in China, even though authorities there say the epidemic has been contained. The next 2 weeks will be critical in stopping the spread of the coronavirus. The Trump administration today releasing new guidelines to help. People are advised to stay home as much as possible, and if anyone at home does get the virus, the entire family needs to self-quarantine.
The entire community needs to work together to fight the virus. That's the message from the Trump administration as they release strict guidelines for the next 15 days. Americans are advised not to meet in groups of more than 10 and should stay home as much as possible. This includes schooling at home.
With several weeks of focused action, we can turn the corner and turn it quickly.
Health experts use modeling to predict how different actions might affect the ultimate outcome. The two most effective actions for this outbreak are social distancing, that's avoiding contact with people, not meeting in large groups, etc. And if any family member gets the virus, everyone in the home needs to self-quarantine.
Because that stops 100% of the transmission outside of the household.
According to the task force, the virus is highly contagious and the outbreak may last until July or August. And while hoping for the best, they're preparing for the worst. Additional medical equipment like surgical masks, respirators, and ventilators are on the way. Trump says they'll arrive before they're needed. Testing will be more widely available from Tuesday. You can get tested at a hospital, by your doctor, or at a drive-through test center if you think you have the virus.
If you don't have the symptoms, if your doctor doesn't think you need it, don't get the test.
Medical teams could be stretched in the near future. Many hospitals have canceled all non-urgent surgeries in preparation. Visiting times have also been limited.
To combat the economic effect of the virus, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates yesterday, but it did little to reassure investors. U.S. stocks today suffered their biggest one-day drop since 1987.
All three major indices fell around 12%, the Dow plunging nearly 3,000 points, the largest point drop and the second largest percentage drop on the record. Investors like low interest rates because it means borrowing money costs less. The Federal Reserve slashed its rates to near zero on Sunday, but it didn't counter worries about the deepening economic impact of the virus. Trading was halted because prices were falling too fast. An 8% drop in the S&P 500 caused it. But even after trading resumed, prices kept falling. White House economist Larry Kudlow is urging Americans to remain calm. He says this will pass.
I believe it's a matter of weeks and months. It is not a matter of years.
He also says the president isn't worried.
He was very calm about the market, and it is what it is. We think it's going to get better, but that's, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Some traders seem to agree.
I traded through 2008 and 2009. I've seen the movie before, even if the actors have changed. It's just a matter of buying good companies on these plunges that will snap back when consumption snaps back, and it always does. We can't, hold back our spending for too long. Eventually, it'll just ricochet back.
But some analysts say that the fact people are staying home and not spending money could shock the service sector.
The hustle and bustle of New York City slowed down significantly today after sweeping closures and limits on social gatherings. But some have taken this up as an opportunity to catch up on their favorite shows and spend some quality time with family. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more.
New York City's Times Square, known as the center of the universe for its bustling crowds, has settled down. The unusual quiet comes amid sweeping closures meant to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The governors of the tri-state area have banned all gatherings of 50 or more people, but that isn't stopping some people from still having fun.
It's not all bad.
We're going to have a pedicab around Central Park this afternoon now for 1 hour, and then we fly back to the UK at 8 o'clock.
Last October in Times Square, you'd have a hard time even getting a little elbow room. But now streets, bike lanes, and sidewalks are lonely in comparison.
As you can see, Times Square has really thinned out. These steps would normally be packed at this hour. A lot of people are working from home or have even been laid off temporarily, but some are seeing this as a great opportunity to spend time with their family.
Work's come down to a halt, essentially, so now I have time to go see very close friends and family down south.
The president designated Sunday as a national day of prayer for everyone affected by the coronavirus. A Roman Catholic man from Ireland sends Hail Marys to victims and healthcare professionals.
Saying prayers every day for them. I think at this time there's not a lot of more practical things we can do but to say a prayer.
New York City's bars and restaurants are now closed to people dining in. Likewise, New Jersey's governor signed an executive order requiring all non-essential businesses to close by 8 p.m. every night. But despite the closures, many New Yorkers are taking the opportunity to look on the bright side, using the time to catch up on some house cleaning or reconnect with friends and family over the phone. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.
And with the ordered shutdowns underway, restaurant owners are also bracing for impact. In New York, however, restaurants will be allowed to serve takeout and delivery. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from Manhattan.
Already, restaurants have closed due to the pandemic, and for the most part, those we paid a visit to that were open didn't have many customers. But on Monday, Governor Cuomo ordered that restaurants no longer provide in-dining service. Only takeout and delivery will be allowed.
Stay home and order from your favorite restaurant, order from your favorite bar, order from your favorite winery.
To give an idea of how many places will be affected, in 2018, the state had over 50,000 food and drink businesses. They made an estimated $51.6 billion that year. But business is already slow for some. The general manager of this pizzeria says delivery and takeout won't make much of a difference.
They're saying that, but the people is scared. People are scared even to order.
He said they're only getting a tenth of the business that they usually do. And for this Chinese restaurant, business has also been slow. The manager said he expects to see another drop.
It's a big damage. It's big damage. It's a lot. It's like the 60% business going down.
But he said this is good for the sake of people's health and that food delivery apps will help them bear some of the cost. So far, there's no telling how long the order will be in place. In the meantime, however, small businesses hurt by the virus can apply for an up to $2 million recovery loan from the federal government. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
LA and San Francisco have also closed bars and restaurants to maintain social distancing. And schools in over half of U.S. states are now scheduled to close or have already closed their doors. The shutdown could last for 2 weeks or even longer.
The largest school system in the country is closing down until at least the end of April. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced on Sunday. Mayor Bill de Blasio said they may close for the rest of the year and that closing schools was a last resort. Governor Cuomo expressed why closing the schools is more complicated than it seems.
This is all about the capacity of the healthcare system. We can't have 1199 healthcare workers not coming to work because they have to stay home. We can't have nurses staying home because they have to stay home and watch their child. So it sounds simple, it's not simple.
He also brought up the issue of how to feed kids who rely on school meals, giving New York City officials 24 hours to figure out a plan to address these issues. The New York City Department of Education announced on their website, starting on Monday, all schools are closed, but there will be grab-and-go meals for breakfast and lunch. All school staff will go to the schools on Tuesday to get trained in teaching online classes. Classes will be taught online starting on March 23rd. At the end of this week, students who need computers will be able to pick them up. Melina Weisskopf, NTD News, New York.
Talk of the virus dominated Sunday night's Democratic debate between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Sanders promoting government-run healthcare, and Biden saying Italy's healthcare system is still hard hit by the virus outbreak and it's government-run.
Former Vice President Joe Biden and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders took the stage for the first one-on-one debate of the Democratic primary. The event was moved from Arizona to Washington because of concerns over the growing coronavirus pandemic and was held without an audience. They each cast themselves as best positioned to lead the nation through a global pandemic. Sanders said the nation is not prepared enough to handle the epidemic. He pitched his overhaul of the country's healthcare system to a single-payer system as the solution. Biden pointed out that a single-payer system had not worked in Italy, the country with the second most coronavirus cases. Biden said his Obamacare extension plans would offer a public option and, like Sanders' Medicare for All, cover everyone.
But regardless of whether my plan was in place or his, this is a crisis. This is like we are being attacked from abroad. This is something that is of great consequence.
Both candidates criticized President Trump's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. Biden made a commitment on Sunday to picking a woman as his running mate if he wins the Democratic nominee, prompting Sanders to say that, in all likelihood, he would pick a woman too. The debate came 2 days after Tuesday's nominating contest in the big states of Ohio, Illinois, Florida, and Arizona. Another string of Biden's victories would give him an almost unbeatable lead in delegates over Sanders. Sanders is unsure that Biden has the energy to bring a force strong enough to match President Trump in November.
But I have my doubts about how you win a general election against Trump, who will be a very, very tough opponent, unless you have energy, excitement, the largest voter turnout in history.
After the debate, Sanders questioned whether primaries should be held while large gatherings increase the risk of contracting the virus.
Ohio's governor has now decided to extend Tuesday's primary voting to June 2nd. And First Lady Melania Trump has canceled the annual White House Easter egg roll. She made the decision in order to comply with the government's national emergency declaration over the coronavirus. The Easter egg roll has been an official tradition since 1878. But informal egg rolling on the White House lawn is said to have begun as far back as the era of Abraham Lincoln. This is the first time since 1952 that the Easter egg roll has been put on hold. And Iran has announced its largest jump in coronavirus deaths since the outbreak began. Meanwhile, some reports say the country has not halted flights to China.
Coronavirus deaths have skyrocketed in Iran. The regime announced 129 new deaths over the past 24 hours. Iran is considered the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in the Middle East. But Iran's leaders are not looking to put a general quarantine in place and have even sought to keep borders open. And just days ago, reports indicated that flights from Iran to China are still running, even though it's believed to be the way the virus first came to Iran. The flights are thought to continue because of financial ties between the Chinese regime and Iran, who seek to conduct regular business despite the dangers to citizens. Almost 15,000 Iranians are believed to have been infected, while official figures show just over 850 total deaths. Iran's leaders also said that many younger people have died, with around 15% of deaths occurring in people younger than 40. The number of Iranians infected are believed to be much higher than the reported figures.
Canada is closing its borders to all foreign nationals except U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is urging people to stay at home to help stem the spread of the coronavirus.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents. This measure will carve out some designated exceptions, including for air crews, diplomats, immediate family members of Canadian citizens, and, at this time, U.S. citizens.
Trudeau said Canadians should not travel outside the country and urged citizens who are abroad to return home. Canada shares a long, unguarded frontier with the United States, which takes in 75% of Canadian goods exports. And coming up, China may face a second outbreak. This as authorities lift restrictions and tell people to go back to work. Learn more about what experts have to say after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Chinese authorities claim the situation is improving inside China, but not everyone is convinced. Our reporter Tiffany Meyer has the details.
A Florida law firm, the Berman Law Group, is suing the Chinese Communist Party, accusing them of mishandling the coronavirus outbreak. The 20-page lawsuit alleges the Chinese regime knew the dangers of the novel coronavirus becoming a pandemic, but acted slowly, covering it up for their own economic self-interest. So just how powerful is the Chinese regime's propaganda? Many overseas Chinese students only read news from Chinese state-run media on WeChat. Many believed what they read, that China is now the only safe country to go to. Some managed to fly back on chartered planes, but when they arrived, they found a very different story. Video posted online showed 2 students saying they were held in a fever ward for 2 days without being allowed to get food. There were also no beds provided or showers. They said they were tested but weren't told what their results were, and they weren't allowed to leave. And a video posted online shows a self-isolation room. The man filming says the windows are sealed and won't open. The door is locked with a chain held slightly ajar. He says the showers don't work. While Chinese officials have boasted about all the temporary hospitals in Wuhan closing down, a doctor in Wuhan reveals that patients from the temporary hospitals were discharged without diagnosis. He said hospitals stopped doing blood tests after a patient tested positive. The doctor was angry because according to the official Wuhan pneumonia treatment guideline, doctors are required to perform a blood test, yet none of these hospitals performed it. He adds that the coronavirus is now a political problem. According to a conversation posted in an online Chinese chat room, another temporary hospital was built on the outskirts of Wuhan. It can hold 4,000 people and has the highest level of security. No one can leave or escape. Some are saying the Chinese regime wants to transfer the problems out of town and wants to spread the narrative that Wuhan is back to normal. NTD could not independently verify these claims.
In fact, experts warn that China could see a second outbreak of coronavirus, even though official figures don't support that possibility.
Looking at Chinese state media, the virus outbreak seems to have calmed down. Patients are packing up and going home. Factory workers are headed back to work. Officials are calling foreign investors to quickly come back, saying China is now a safe haven for investment.
At this moment, China could be the best place in the entire world to invest in order to avoid risks.
But some experts worry that as China started to lift restrictions on business and social activities, the country could see a resurgence of cases. In a widely shared article, Shanghai-based infectious disease expert Zhang Wenhong wrote that it is basically impossible for the outbreak to end by the end of this summer. He suggested that China's outbreak may stretch into next year. NIH Director Dr. Anthony Fauci says that he hopes we don't see the second blip in China. But as the country started getting back to normal interactions, another outbreak is possible. Former official from China's National Health Commission, Chen Bingzhong, told NTD it's impossible that China is having such a minimal increase of cases right now.
Many people who have left Wuhan's makeshift quarantine hospitals are still infected. You don't know if someday they could cause another major outbreak. The authorities are eager to resume work and production, but many people are actually asymptomatic and they are not tested. So these people are invisible right now. When the time comes, they might cause a second wave of outbreak.
Certain signals from local officials also hint that the outbreak may linger. Warm weather may not help stop the coronavirus from spreading.
Currently, there have been no data regarding COVID-19 as its relation with the weather issue.
German virologist Christian Trosten says the current restrictions in China may have helped isolate the virus, but does not necessarily help eliminate it. Once the measures are lifted, the outbreak could return, but he warns that Chinese authorities are eager to make it look like the problem has ended. As a result, he says the official numbers probably shouldn't be trusted. He added that the cases they report left people with the impression that all new cases are now imported from Italy. China has extended the holiday student discount on train tickets until the end of May, suggesting that colleges and schools may remain closed until June. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Up next, your Amazon orders may take longer to arrive. People are buying more online amid the outbreak. That and more when we return.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Amazon's speedy shipping practices are slowing down. The e-commerce giant is trying to keep up with a surge in online shopping due to the coronavirus outbreak. Because of the online shopping rush, customers may experience shipping delays. Some popular items are even out of stock, especially household staples. The company is also working to combat third-party sellers who are trying to hike prices. It pulled more than 1 million products earlier this month because of price gouging or false advertising, particularly about the effectiveness of a product to guard against the coronavirus. And in France, latest reports show a rapid increase in coronavirus cases. While many businesses close up shop, the government asks its people to stay home. Our France correspondent David Vives has the report.
For this Parisian restaurant manager, farewells seem rather unfamiliar.
It's strange saying goodbye to clients as though we won't see each other again. It's rather peculiar.
France shut shops, restaurants, entertainment venues from Sunday on.
In the beginning, we were a bit depressed because we didn't expect it at all. But we said, okay, tonight is our last night out. Voila.
Cafes and restaurants are at the heart of French life, and most have closed. France's health agency's director says the situation is deteriorating quickly. The nation's 67 million people have been told to stay home to help fight the spread of the coronavirus. But it isn't easy to make the French stay home. Many people stretched their legs on Sunday and enjoyed the sunshine.
Life goes on. We can't stop going outside. It feels a bit different, though, now that we can't go to bars and restaurants.
In response to this attitude, the health minister implored French people to respect the need for social distancing.
This is the first time ever France has been forced to close its stores. Even still, the government says stricter measures could be around the corner. David Vives, NTD News.
Health experts say France's infections are increasing at a rate similar to Italy's. The number of coronavirus cases doubled over the last 3 days. Over 6,500 are now infected, and 148 people have died. And Germany just enacted a far-reaching shutdown of its public life. In response, one German high school student turned an idea for how neighbors can help each other into action. NTD's Germany correspondent Christian Watschen has the story.
Germany is joining other European nations in locking down to help slow the spread of the coronavirus. German Chancellor Merkel appealed to the nation.
And this is where our solidarity, our reason, our hearts for each other are put to the test, which I hope we can pass.
von der ich mir wünsche, dass wir diese Probe auch bestehen können.
And elsewhere, the shutdown brings challenges. With schools and daycare centers closing, many parents struggle to take care of their children. Many elderly or sick people need help with basic necessities. So one 15-year-old Berlin high school student came up with an idea.
Friday, I read the news and realized that there might be some people in Berlin that really need help. Why I made a website to connect people who offer help with the people who need help in Berlin.
NOAA's website is called Corona Port. So far, over 450 people have registered to offer support to their neighbors in need. Many are willing to help with shopping. Others offer childcare and pet sitting.
The key to success to work together and to help each other in really in the smallest point to the largest frame.
As social life comes largely to a standstill, some Berliners say their communities are coming together. For them is a time to take more care of their neighbors, particularly single parents, the sick and the elderly. Christian Wojcik, NTD News, Berlin.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.